Hello everyone and welcome to another review by George. Today we're going to review the Benchmade 746 Onslaught. Like usual, I would like to skip the first part of this document because you can freeze the video or you can just look at the description section of this video. I'm going to jump right into the review. Let's start with the positives. This knife has very, very good ergonomics, for a small or medium-sized hand. And the build quality of this thing is also very, very excellent. So now we're going to dive into the detail section. So for a start, the blade has a very, very good, premium quality stainless steel. So that's 154 cm. And it's got a very good balance of edge retention, sharpenability, as well as corrosion resistance. And the sharpness of this knife is also very, very excellent. I'm doing actually a push cut pretty much. So you can see it's just what you expect from most Benchmades. I would say, I've had a sort of like a not very sharp Benchmade knives before, but I think their recent quality is rather quite outstanding, just like the way they should be. And the belly of this knife is very, very great as well. As you can see, it's a very, very big curve, and that just gives you a lot of sliceability and cutting power. Also, needless to say, this is very interesting because Benchmade offers this spectacle hole on their blade, and that's very unusual. I think there are only about 2 or 3 models offered by Benchmade that has the thumb hole. It's not very big thumb hole, so it's a functional but not very perhaps not a perfect size. So, but you can see it's ambidextrous. You can open it from both sides. That's very good. Now, and obviously this somehow will cut down some weight from this knife. So, any weight reduction that's also a good feature. The tip of this knife is very, very pointy. As you can see, it's kind of like a bowie, sort of similar to a bowie or a clip point design. Yeah, so it's quite aggressive, sort of like a pointy shape. And the deployment of this knife, due to the Axis lock, very, very excellent, impeccable. Now, let's talk about the handle. The it's got the Axis lock. It's obviously ambidextrous. You can use it on both sides, left hand or right hand, and obviously you get your finger away from the knife when you closing it, so that's safe for your finger as well. And another thing about Axis lock is something people don't really notice, and they don't really talk about this very much. I come up with this theory that the Axis lock is actually sort of like amongst all the major locking designs, it's really, really well designed due to the fact that the axis, the circle here, that's a Benchmade mini griptilian, I believe. The circle here is actually able to rotate, and due to that fact, because it's rotating, the wear and tear caused by the motion is actually much smaller than the other knives. Say, for example, a liner lock, which focuses the wear onto this particular point, just this one surface only. And a back lock is also similarly, you're going to rub against this surface as well as that surface, whereas this Axis lock, amongst, say, with the ball bearing lock, they both have a rotating surface for bearing the wear and tear. So that means it's more durable in time. So that's very great as well. And here the compression lock, similarly, the wear and tear focuses on the on this surface as well as that surface. That's less area to actually bear the load, hence more wear and tear. Anyways, next thing is the ergonomic of this knife. It's going to be really nice for a medium or small size hand. I would say if you have big hands, probably not so much, because your hand will find probably will be okay. Anyways, the steel liners of this knife, I'm not too sure if you can see it, but you just have to take my word since you're watching my review. Steel liners on this knife is actually got a lot of cutout as well to reduce the weight. So that's very thoughtful. And the handle is sort of like a banana shape, as you can see. It actually improves the grip because it fits in your hand nicely, and when should you use any forward thrusting motion, it's going to retain that grip fairly easy. And next thing is it's got a lanyard hole available in here, very over here. And yeah, so the last thing about this positive point is the pocket clip and the surface of this G10, which is smoothed out to pretty much the best effort, and combining these two surfaces, like clipping on your pocket, if you draw the knife back and forth, it's not going to wear out your pocket as much. So that's also very nice as well. So the blade has a couple of negative points. I mean, no knife is perfect in my opinion, but some knives just have more advantages than disadvantages. Anyways, there's no jimping on the blade. As you can see, it's just all smooth here, and it's sort of there's no jimping to secure your thumb any further, and the thumb hole is quite small, like I mentioned. If your thumb is quite fat or big, it's potentially going to be a little bit hard to access the thumb hole there. And I don't know if the macro will pick up this bit, but I think there's a slight dent, or I would say maybe uneven grind on the edge. I think you can see it here. It's not really a big deal. It's not a big deal at all, don't get me wrong. And this knife has otherwise a very excellent build quality. Yeah, it's just over there. It's like slightly uneven. You can see the curve. You can see sort of like it's missing. The curve is sort of like tapers toward the blade ever slightly just in here. Anyways, it's not a big deal. Like I said, there's absolutely no perfection in the world, and you shouldn't ask it from a production knife like this. So the handle has like I said, the handle is kind of quite small for anyone with big hands. For my hands, it's just enough. I've got this medium-sized hand, by the way, and the lanyard hole here is very minimalistic. You couldn't get any smaller than this as a lanyard hole. And the back of the knife is not flow-through. It's held together in a plastic, so I think it's probably some kind of a FRN backspacer. And I think that's the best they can do for now, probably. And yeah, not full flow through, so if that's a problem to you, think about that. Now, Axis lock requires 2 omega springs, 1 on each side. The problem with that really is that I've had a Benchmade, not Onslaught, it's a Benchmade 940, and I've just played with the knife so much, and the Axis lock spring, the omega spring broke on one end. I played it further, the other side broke as well. But when I think about it, the fact that the Axis lock uses the omega spring is actually making it sort of I just don't think the Omega spring is very good. I prefer if there's a coil spring, and the reason why a coil spring is potentially better is that when a coil spring breaks, it becomes two little weaker springs, but because it relies on the coil spring to actually sort of compress to give you that spring action, two weaker springs can still function, whereas Omega spring, when this little wire breaks, it just does not function at all. It doesn't give you any tension. The fact that it's got two Omega springs, one on each end, actually helps a little, but it actually doesn't give you much balance, and I think it's very, very unsafe to use a knife with just only one Omega spring on one side. So that's something to consider for Benchmade if they actually watch my video, sort of by any chance. Anyways, the smooth handle will actually offer you no traction at all. This knife, the reason that you can feel like you have a good grip is primarily due to the fact it's like banana shape here, and that gives you the most amount of security while you're holding this knife. So smooth G10, no traction. And the other probably the most major problem I have with this knife is this pocket clip. It's very wide and very shiny. It don't come with a blackened pocket clip, and this big ass chunk of steel along with the pocket clip, you put it in your pocket, you walk around, and people can see it. Honestly, it will attract a lot of attention. So that's one of the major issue I have with the knife. I don't know why they have this blackened pocket clip, and it's very shiny as well. Some positive on the speculations, based on my speculation. So the belly of this knife should make it very easy to sharpen on a bench stone. Probably you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's fine. I'm going to try to use this illustration I drew just a couple of days ago. Hopefully I can find it. But the fact that the bench stones are usually flat in surface, and I can't find the illustration, I'm sorry. The flat bench stone is very flat, and if you have a flat surface of the knife edge, it's going to have to meet, every point of the knife edge is going to have to try to meet the entire bench stone. Imagine my hand as being the bench stone, to actually sharpen it well. And having a curved belly like this, you can almost guarantee that every single point of your edge is going to sharpen on the bench stone very easily because it's curved, instead of having a flat edge that will very struggle to meet another flat edge which is imperfect. So this is one reason I really like the big belly on the knife blades. And I would say this knife looks very great and very unique as well. It's just something, one of its own kind, really. It's definitely not a cheap looking knife. I actually prefer this model than the grip tailoring series. Anyways, the pivot design here is much more unique as well. As you can see, the Benchmade typical pivot clip is not, the typical axis or the typical pivot here is not here, because here it has like a very interesting sort of cone-shaped sort of a cover in here, and on the other side you got your Torx screw. And it's very, very interesting from Benchmade. And I think potentially this is, I don't know. Yeah, but I think it's interesting. And negative things about the knife is backspacer. Backspacer here is actually made of somewhat like a softer plastic. If I bend this, as you can see, it's going to bend with just a gentle pressure from my index finger. So that indicates and you can also tell this is not G10. It's some kind of FRN if you're lucky. So I don't know why they didn't use something much harder. I would say it's somewhat useful to have like a harder material in here. And I can imagine there's probably not much going on in terms of rigidity going along this point because there's no screw here. So that's one thing I don't really like about the knife. I think they could have just maybe put some standoffs there or something stronger as the back. Also, as I would recommend you not to use the back here to use it as like a bashing weapon or anything because of this plastic sort of looking material in the back space as a back spacer. Anyways, the finger guard, there's no finger guards here, so I'll say that could be useful. Maybe just sort of help you to secure your finger better when you're doing some sort of like a thrusting attack if you have to use it in a defensive role. But in terms of handle geometry, it's sort of doing the best it can to secure a hand without using the finger guard. Anyways, so final notes on the knife. I would say it's a very classic, like a very classy gentleman's folder looking knife. This thing just looks very unique, and the build quality is excellent, and the price is not too bad either. I'll just say that sort of a huge disappointment coming from this knife is the pocket clip being so shiny and very eye-catching. It's a bit of a letdown for me. Otherwise, that concludes my review today, and I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll see you next time.